Morning glory, America. I'm not there. I was out very late last night carousing on the West Coast with Mike Pompeo, Robert O'Brien, and Peter Thiel. That's a true story. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. In the meantime, Colonel Kurt came in early before dawn to take my space in the California studio, and I appreciate it greatly. I think he's armed. I think Dwayne even came in this morning. He always gets afraid of Kurt. He shows up when Kurt's guest hosting. So take it away, Kurt. I'm sure you're very, very pleased with Major League Baseball.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. Yes, I am Kurt Schlichter. Yes, I am a noted fan of professional sports. I'm also a liberal Democrat, and my pronouns are they and them. Okay, none of that is so. What am I? I am the senior columnist at Townhall.com. I am a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. I'm a retired United States Army colonel. That's going to come in handy today when we talk about some stuff. And I am the author of the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, starting with People's Republic. You should go get it. You know, Bill Kristol hailed these books as appalling. I literally could not think of higher praise than to have that Never Trump weasel diss my tomes. So let's get right into it because we have a lot of stuff on the rundown today. Officer, I'd like to report a murder. It was Asa Hutchinson on Tucker Carlson last night. Did you guys see that? Now, what did Asa Hutchinson do? Did he come on and explain what the heck is up with the name Asa? What is he, a cook in the old-time West? But let's get beyond that. He's the governor of Arkansas, and he decided to Kirsty Gnome all over his future prospects, although I think he's like 112, so I'm not sure he had any. Frankly, I think he was trying to nail down a Walmart board seat when he's termed out as governor. What did he do? He decided to veto a bill that prevented the chemical castration of children and the literal castration of children. Yes, he gets on Tucker, right, he does that, and the Arkansas legislature goes, here in Arkansas, mutilating children, not on the agenda. We're not doing that. We're not going down that road. So he comes on with Tucker Carlson, and he thinks he's like Kirsty Gnome, who got up and decided she was going to explain why it was okay for boys pretending to be girls to play girl sports and basically destroy girl sports in the process, and she vetoed that legislation. Now Asa Hutchinson steps on the same landmine. He decides he's going to explain to all of us why the conservative position is pro chemical castration of children. And here's the thing that gets me, right? He decides he's going to support this with this kind of, well, I'd like to get back to limited government like we had under William F. Buckley and Ronald Reagan. Time out. Okay, I didn't party with Ronald Reagan. I was alive with Ronald Reagan. It was my first vote for president. I saw him at his last campaign appearance in San Diego's Mission Valley in 1984 in November. I loved Ronald Reagan. He was president when I was commissioned as a United States Army officer. He's very near and dear to my heart. Now, but I'm not going to pretend I knew him really well. It wasn't like, Hugh was worked very closely with Richard Nixon, would know him if he said, well, Richard Nixon would do this. You would take that to the bank. I can't really say that about Ronald Reagan from being close together with him. But I am pretty sure that Reagan conservatism did not extend to the chemical castration of children who believe they're the wrong sex. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. And he gets on, and he's speaking this language to Tucker Carlson, who's got major Tucker face going. He's got Tucker face to the nth degree. And the Tucker face, for you guys at home, he's like this. It's like my dog when I start talking particle physics to it. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's sitting there going, well, I think because limited God, I don't want to get between a doctor and a patient and making those decisions. Okay, I kind of do want to get between any doctor who thinks chemical or surgical mutilation of a minor is an appropriate remedy for anything. Yes, I do want to get in between that and the doctor, because there are doctors out there who are quacks and who prescribe insane things. And this is nuts. And yet he vetoed it. Now, unfortunately, like I said, the Arkansas legislature came back and said, no, we're not really down with that. So we're not going to do that here in Arkansas. And I strongly encourage that. But I'm still baffled by guys like Asa Hutchinson, who, he's been one of those fringy conservative players that's always like on, he's got like a second tier secretary of something job in a Bush cabinet. And he's always kind of there, and you're thinking, he's probably reliable. And then he comes out with this, and you're thinking, what the hell? What the hell are these people thinking? And there's been a lot of that lately, and this brings us to baseball. Now, as Dwayne knows, I am the #1 baseball fan in the world, which is really a bunch of number 2.
Sports ball forever.
I don't do sports, and apparently Hugh doesn't either. I'm here in the Relief Factor studio, and I'm looking around, and there used to be a lot more baseball memorabilia in here. A lot of it's gone. Am I right?
He still is a fan of the Indians. He still bleeds Cleveland sports.
What color is Cleveland sports?
Uh,
Is it like green, like Spock's blood?
No.
I remember his high copper content. That was important in some Star Trek adventure.
He is.
God, that I know that makes me want to die and go kiss a girl.
Yeah, that's kind of strange.
Yeah.
No, his attitude is, if you want to watch it, okay, watch it, but he's not spending a dime on it this year. He's done spending money on wokeness.
Are we agree that Hugh is one of the most centered, mellow people there is? I mean, he's a stable guy. He doesn't fly off into giant rants like, I don't know, me, right?
He is not you.
He is not temperamental.
No.
He is steady and stable, and he is completely done with the wokeness in corporate America.
Yes, he's pretty much at it.
I call it the Hewitt test.
And he's almost up to here with media, too.
And now people can't see you, but you're raising your hand very, very high.
Yes.
Himalaya high. Well, look, the media is garbage. We're going to be, I'm sure Ron DeSantis is going to come up and 60 Minutes and that whole controversy. But it's all part and parcel of the same thing. It is all part and parcel of an establishment and institutions that seem to be doubling down on exercising their power against us, to manipulate us, to control us, to tell us what we can and can't say, think, or do. When you have the media digging into, the scandal behind the guy who has probably most successfully of all large state governors fought the COVID virus. When you got Cuomo up in New York, when he's not, grabbing every chick who passes by and planning a kiss on her, he's killing seniors in nursing homes. And that's like literal through his gross incompetence.
And using state paid for staff to do the grunt work on his book so that he can collect the $4 million. I mean,
Wait, hold on. He got $4 million advanced?
Yeah.
Look, I get good advances. Because, Hugh turned me on to his agent, so I have the same age as Hugh. And I get good advances because my books are powerful and compelling, and you should all go buy them. But I don't get $4 million. No, I also don't kill seniors.
The corruption with Cuomo is so widespread. It's like you've got a target-rich environment.
I know.
On which subject to impeach him on.
And he's like down the street from West 57th, where CBS is. Right? They can just go, hey, it's convenient. I'll just take the train. I'll go catch a subway, and I'll go, expose this sociopathic freak of nature.
But no, instead...
No, let's head to Florida. Now, I understand why you would want to head to Florida, because New York has become New York of the 70s. The cab pulls up, and it's Robert De Niro, and he's got a .357 Magnum and a mohawk. He's like, where are you going? You're not one of them scum, are you? And then you're like, I'm lucky, okay? Because at least, at least Travis Bickle here, he's going to protect me from the real criminals, right? No, I would go to Florida. I would totally go to Florida if I was 60 million. I understand it, but it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you understand that the media is
they're already fighting 2024.
Well, they're trying to take Ron DeSantis out of the game.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis is not playing it. Ron DeSantis is immune.
They're inoculating him, is what they're doing.
Yes, but what they're ending up doing is inoculating him with awesome, because I'm loving it. I'm Kurt Schlichter. I'm here at the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Stick around. We got a bunch of stuff coming up, including Liz Sheld at the bottom of the hour. You do not want to miss it.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
You cease to amaze me at sometimes the stupidity that comes out of your mouth.
The expression is never cease to amaze me as you're calling me stupid. I'm just saying.
About the George Floyd trial.
Actually, it's the Derek Chauvin trial. George Floyd is dead.
YouTube last
so as you call me stupid, just pointing out a few things.
Year, they had white officers answering calls to white people. Two of them had knives, and in both instances, the officers took them down without any incident. Why don't you have your research staff research that sometimes before you go around flapping your gums about...
flapping my gums? Is that racist?
It seems like you just on one side of the fence all the time, the one that butters your bread, I guess. So you have a nice evening.
On one side of the fence all the time, the one that butters your bread, you have a nice evening. I will say one more time, sir. The police kill every year more unarmed whites than they kill unarmed blacks. Heather McDonald says that a black man is 18.5 times more likely to kill a white cop than the other way around. Is that relevant to you? The number one cause of preventable death for young white men is accidents, car accidents, drownings, things like that. Number one cause of preventable death for young black men, homicide, almost always at the hands of another young black man. The percentage of blacks who are unarmed, killed by cops, represents roughly 1/3 of 1% of all the blacks who are killed in this country every year. Is that at all relevant?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Even when they're not on some cable channel shock jock platform, they don't care. One of the bravest, best Americans I know was my colleague, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's sitting there at the White House Correspondents Association annual dinner when somebody else who says she's a comedian, well, says this as she's standing next to her.
Every time Sarah steps up to the podium, I get excited because I'm not really sure what we're going to get. You know, a press briefing, a bunch of lies, or divided into softball teams. It's shirts and skins, and this time don't be such a little Jim Acosta. I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies. It's probably lies. Sure what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, is it Sarah Sanders? Is it Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Is it cousin Huckabee? Is it Auntie Huckabee Sanders? Like, what's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women?
Hilarious, Michelle Wolf. So when that party, when those people who voted for Joe Biden and for Hillary Clinton tell you they care about the illegal immigrants crossing our border, they're lying to you. They don't give a damn.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
insurgents, and we are not being invaded, which, by the way, is a white supremacist idea, philosophy.
She doesn't know what philosophy means, and that's okay. She's not very bright. She has a very big, very substantial following, I should say. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is articulating why she's angry at the people.
I am back in black. Kurt Schlichter guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt here in Southern California at the Relief Factor studio. Wide awake at dark 30. It's not 0 dark 30, okay? I was an Army guy. You know, it's 0 dark 30, much better movie title, but not how we said it's dark 30. And it is, oh man, it is dark 30. And if it wasn't for my mainlining coffee into my veins, I would probably be completely unconscious at this time. But I'm not. I'm excited. I'm excited because of the pushback. I'm excited by seeing Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, push back against a 60-minute smear job. Did you see what these guys did? They get out there, all right, we're, again, the most successful governor of a large state fighting COVID. He decides, hey, I'm gonna utilize the existing logistics and distribution system of Publix, which is a vaunted and much loved chain of grocery stores and pharmacies in Florida. People love it. It's all over the place. He decides he's going to use that because he's going to leverage their logistical capabilities. Remember, this is a logistical exercise. Now, I'm here in California. Let me compare. I am over 50, so I am eligible for this virus now, or a vaccine. I don't know if I'm going to take it because I can't get a straight answer whether someone like me, whose powerful antibodies have beaten the puny virus senseless, I'm still not clear on whether I should be someone who should go get it, right? I'm not like anti-vaccine. It's just I've had the disease. Do I need the vaccine? Also, am I taking the vaccine from someone who has not had it and actually does need it? So I'm unclear on that. And until I get cleared up, I'm not going to take it. But I did check to see if I could, and I can't find a place to give it to me in my rich seaside community here in Southern California, where I luxuriate beneath the palm trees. Ron DeSantis, of course, is out there and he's vaccinating everybody. He started with seniors, and 60 Minutes is like, seniors are primarily DeSantis voters. I think it's a conspiracy. Or, yeah, okay, that's option A. Option B, those are the people who need it. Let's, now, 60 Minutes defended its story after just getting lambasted for editing it, what's it? Misleadingly editing his statements, which it did.
Deceptively editing.
Deceptively. They basically cut out his entire explanation and pretended he didn't have one. Ron DeSantis fought back. It's a lesson. Politicians in the GOP, take note. Cut 15.
Thing that showed that their narrative was a piece of horse manure. And it shows you how dishonest, these are smear merchants. That's why nobody trusts corporate media. They are a disaster in what they're doing. They knew what they were doing was a lie. I knew what they were doing was a lie. Everybody here knows what they were doing is a lie. They know that we know they're lying, and yet they continue to lie. And they lied, and they lied, and they lied. We offered them the information, and they declined to interview the key people because they didn't want to let go of the narrative. Well, guess what? There's going to be consequences for that. I know corporate media thinks that they can just run over people. You ain't running over this governor. I'm punching back.
I love everything about that. I love every single thing about that. Although I wouldn't have said a manure. I'd have gone non-FCC compliant. because that's how the K-Dog rolls.
That's how the K-Dog rolls.
That is how the K-Dog rolls.
When he said, "I'm not going to put up with it," and there's going to be consequences. Aren't you curious what those consequences are going to be?
I am. Now, I don't think he's going to make 60 Minutes illegal, which I'll hear him out if he does. But I do think that there is going to be a ton of pushback. Now, 60 Minutes has a long and storied history of
going back to Mike Wallace. I mean, they've done this for decades.
Of lying, of flacking for Democrats. It's basically a licensed and approved regime Pravda outlet, and it's garbage. And you win, Republicans, when you fight the garbage media. Fight the garbage media. Fight the power. This is Kurt Schlichter. We are fighting the power here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Stick around. Liz Sheld is joining me. Going to be wild.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
And they are not insurgents, and we are not being invaded, which, by the way, is a white supremacist idea, philosophy.
She doesn't know what philosophy means, and that's okay. She's not very bright. She has a very substantial following, I should say. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is articulating why she's angry at the people that are angry, that the left seems completely uninterested in complaining that the Biden administration is actually doing everything on the border worse than the Trump administration. But why is it that it feels as if we are slow to move against Joe Biden? I remember against Barack Obama. It was organic. It was real. There was a response that was unscripted. Patriots across the country rose up and started Tea Party groups. Candidates ran for office. Rick Santelli's famous rant in 2009 or 2010. And I'm reminded by a phrase that substance does not matter as much as style in the eyes of most voters. You see, what we make fun of Joe Biden for is actually a winning quality to most voters. The fact that Joe Biden is kind of sleepy and slow, the fact that Joe Biden falls upstairs, which is a rather remarkable thing, it's exactly what the ruling class wants. You see, Joe Biden is like the grandparent that kind of falls asleep in front of the television at 7 o'clock.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Did you move to LA from New York?
I moved very shortly thereafter because while I couldn't write for Letterman, I was perfect for Johnny Carson. And so I asked my now friend, David Letterman, would he please send a package out to his connections? He's already been guest hosting that show for years and whatnot.
So what happened? The Tonight Show said, nah, we're not interested.
Yeah, Johnny was going through a miserable divorce. And by the way, I remember the very first joke because he did use some of the material I sent out. The very first joke. Now, you wouldn't be able to do this joke today because it's body shaming. And you have to remember the reference is, I guess now 35, maybe even, gosh.
Is this a Toady Fields joke or a Mama Cass Elliott joke?
Sort of. All right. Remember Karnak the Magnificent? The answer is hip, hip, hooray. The question, describe Liz Taylor putting on her jeans.
That is a great joke. What do you mean you can't do a joke like that today? That is a great joke. You just did it on this program. I love it. Hip, hip. So has that joke ever appeared anywhere?
Yes, every time I'm on the air.
Every time you're on the air. Hip, hip, hooray. Well, when you write a joke like that, that's like I think Dick Cavett's first major joke was there's a new restaurant and it's Chinese German. The only problem is an hour after you eat there, you're hungry for power.
That's a big joke. Yep.
It's a stupid joke, but I mean, anyway. Okay, so hip hip hooray.
Now, can I tell a slightly off-color joke?
If you don't, we'll be offended.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Coca-Cola, cowards, read the damn bill. It doesn't suppress anybody unless you're of the mindset, if you're black, you're too dumb to figure out how to get ID to vote. That's suppression, because we know how black people are. We know how brown people are. They're not intelligent enough to get an ID put together. They can't go down to the DMV, or they can't figure out a way to get just a state ID. They can't. We can't expect our poor black friends to do that. That's the left. That's the mindset. That's the thinking of Democrats. Now, Ed Bastian's company, Delta, won't be so forgiving for somebody who's too ignorant to get an ID and let them get on their plane, because you can't fly Delta without a photo ID, a legitimate ID. But don't you dare expect a black or brown Georgian to be smart enough to figure out how to produce an ID when they vote. That's suppression. No, that's not suppression. That's idiocy. That is stupidity at the highest level, and everybody knows it. So good for the Georgia State Legislature for pushing back and telling Delta to go stick it in your ear. They ought to say the same thing. They ought to do the same thing to Coca-Cola, to Home Depot, to any of these companies who are playing this pitiful game.
This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt, and from that theme song that we got my pal, American Greatness editor, Liz Sheld on the line. Liz, so much insanity. How do we sort it out?
Insane. Good morning, Kurt.
Oh, I'm perky today.
Yes, you're woke, right? I guess everybody's woke now.
Oh, I'm more than woke. I'm the opposite. What's the opposite of narcoleptic?
I don't know. We need to come up with a word that's like woke plus, more than woke.
Woke plus.
To signal to people,
Woke plus.
Yeah.
Kind of plus sized. Oh, by the way, did you see, yesterday, right, let's review the news. 60 Minutes slams a successful Republican governor. Yet another non-Trump voter shoots up a place at Fort Detrick. Major League Baseball decides to take, because of racial wokeness, decides to take the All-Star game from a majority black city to the Mayonnaiseville, Colorado.
To a white city. That's fine.
But the big trending New York Times story on Twitter, Lena Dunham's plus-size clothing line is out.
I saw that. I saw that. She got a big write-up in the fashion section.
She did. And hey, she looked very nice.
Yeah, but I mean,
she looked kind of like kind of Ann Taylor-ish.
Well, look, I mean, she can do whatever she wants, but I mean, I guess it is worthy of the New York Times. That is kind of their niche audience. That's the audience that they're attracting to, that level of content.
The people who want
to, body positivity. All the news that's fit to print. Who knows? I don't know. I thought it was strange because there's so many other things that are super important that are happening, and instead we have this woke Olympics going on every day where the news is worse than the day before, if you can even imagine that. This MLB thing is outrageous. And
do you think there's going to be any traction on that, Liz Sheld?
You mean blowback to the MLB?
Exactly. Look, I know there are a lot of people out there who like baseball, and Hugh Hewitt himself says, look, I'm not going to spend any money on baseball this year. A lot of people are angry, but I think a lot of people, and somebody, God, I wish I remembered who said it. A lot of people read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and think, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. And that's kind of like baseball. It's one of the circuses. You get your skimmy payment bread, and that's the circus.
Well, that's the trick. We all bought into these national pastimes because they're supposed to be like an escape from the daily drag of life. Get up, go to work, you have a commute. But we all had these, shared experiences of recreation where we could, escape. Well, now you can't escape. You can't escape with movies. You can't escape with TV. You can't escape with sports. It's not a good place to be. Do I think there'll be any pushback? There'll probably be a little bit. I can't stop watching something I don't watch anymore anyway. I mean,
that's true.
I can't boycott harder things, and it's not even that I'm in a boycott. I've just as a rational agent, I'm thinking, where do I want to spend my money? Why I'm not going to give money to these corporations that are really political activists. They're going to use the money and status I give them by my patronage to then, use the bullets to shoot me with. I'm not going to do it. So, I don't think anyone needs to start an official boycott. It's just a good question to ask yourself, where are you spending your money?
Well, I think, Liz Sheld, I think a lot of these old school Republicans, they just don't get it. They don't get what's going on. And yes, we are going to talk about Asa Hutchinson in a minute.
Oh my gosh!
I know, right? Oh my gosh! Call the police. There's been a murder. He needed a chalk outline after Tucker was done with him. But we see them, and they're acting like it's 1987, where the GOP should be the party that supports big business. And I'm like, all big business does is act as a Democrat cat's paw and give money to BLM. Why are we spending our political capital on the guys who are dedicated to outsourcing jobs to China, opening our borders, destroying our small towns, screwing over our voter? Why are we doing that again? Is it to get the donations? Because the donations are going to the Democrats.
Well, I think that is a great point. And also, these are American corporations, and they used to have support because it was good for America. They provided services, they provided goods that we needed. There was competition, meaning things were always getting better, more efficient, faster. It was great. But now that we've opened up this international and this global frontier for them, companies like the Major League Baseball, they can be like, well, we don't care because we have a huge market over here in China. So, if we offend half the country, 75 million people, let's say, we don't care. So I do think that there's this time warp or something. These people do think it's 1987. These corporations are not really American corporations anymore. And the question is, why are they getting any benefits?
Bingo.
We're getting benefits because it was good for America. It's not a racial comment. Anyone who's a citizen here, whatever color you are, pink, yellow, green, whatever, if you're an American, you benefited from having these corporations. But now they're not really American companies anymore. They make their products overseas, a lot of them. They're trying to get into those markets, which are bigger for them. I mentioned China. So, I'm with you, Kurt. I just think we need to reevaluate any kind of benefit these corporations that are saber-rattling with their wokeness. Right now, every state legislature, especially the Republican ones, because the Democrat ones aren't going to do this, and they need to say, hey, let's go through and see what kind of benefits these companies have being in the state, and let them know, hey, we're going to cut you off at the teat here if you are going to undermine the authority of the citizens to decide how they want to conduct their elections or how they want their state government to run. Well, they have no business doing it, the corporation.
Well, exactly, Liz Sheld of American Greatness. And I'm going to write about this tomorrow in my Townhall column about the woke corporations. I know there's a bunch of little bow tie conservatives out there going, my conservative principle said that we're required to lose and be defeated. But look, I'm not going to have any conservative principle that makes me less free. And I care about as much about the corporation's property rights as they care about my civil rights.
No, I think you're right. And to be honest, I support $100 an hour minimum wage for these larger corporations.
Only for the larger ones, because that'll destroy the market.
Oh, like Amazon, yes. And also that includes your contractors. Yes, absolutely. These companies, many of them, I think Nike, came out yesterday, they don't pay any taxes. Okay, no, we cannot have that anymore.
Oh, no, we can't have that anymore, Liz Sheld. Here's what I think. so many of these companies talk about living wage, and they pay money, but the rest of us are making it up on Section 8, Medi-Cal, Medicare, all these other things. If you're a giant corporation, I think a per head tax per employee to make up for what we have to pay so that these people can survive, I think that's fair, and it also doesn't destroy the labor market.
No, the taxpayer is subsidizing the fact that corporations are paying people $8 an hour.
Bingo. Why are conservatives going out of their way spending capital on corporations that hate us? They hate us.
Well, they're a burden on the taxpayer. Maybe they're great for their stockholders, but they're a burden on the average taxpayer.
Yeah, I think it's
subsidized. So I agree with you.
When we have this infrastructure bill coming and these giant tax hikes on corporations, the corporations and the Chamber of Commerce are going to come to the Republicans going, save us, save us. And I totally want to channel that guy from Watchmen. I forget who he is. The guy with the weird face, and he goes, "He'll come and beg me for help, and I will say no."
Yeah.
God, I'm being nerdy today. I said Star Trek earlier.
From our media, our trusted media, that Jeff Bezos supports the infrastructure bill because companies like Amazon can afford the burden of operation, and it also helps get rid of their competition.
Bingo.
Their smaller competition, so they don't have any threats of someone coming up. So we're in a very interesting situation, and a lot of people are in a time warp, certainly our elected officials. But I think even regular people who, especially on the right, our people, they did not want to sign up for a life of activism. They wanted to sign up for leave me alone so I can live my life. And now they have to constantly monitor all of these things going on, corporations, what's getting snuck into some monster wink, wink infrastructure bill, which is a little to do with infrastructure. And they have to worry about it. And a lot of people don't want to, or they're just not totally fully aware. I think as far as actual voters go, active Republicans, they do know what time it is. When you're talking about the bow tie, chin chin governor at the country club, that's like a very tiny.
The Asa Hutchinson contingent.
Yes, the Asa Hutchinson.
He got
him now.
boy.
Yeah,
he got. I've never seen so much Tucker face.
That was pretty bad. And who told him to look?
Who thought that was a great idea?
I would be like, do not do that.
Yeah, what Asa Hutchinson did is he goes on Tucker to explain why he vetoed a bill that basically says, no, you're not allowed to chemically castrate or surgically mutilate children who think they're a different gender, which I think is a pretty reasonable position. Look, I am firmly in the anti-mutilation caucus.
I would think that, considering the legislature in Arkansas just overrode the veto.
Yeah, they weren't having anything to do with it.
That it's popular. You always have to wonder why politicians take positions that are opposed to clearly popular.
Ronald Reagan and William F. Buckley would have supported it, Liz. But limited government.
So. It's the same thing with the voter ID, where we get the voter ID, and the pearl clutching over voter ID. 70% of the population supports voter ID.
That's because they don't want people to cheat. Liz Sheld, thank you so much. Follow everything she writes at American Greatness. She's at Star Chambermaid on Twitter. I am Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. We have so much more. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you, Kurt. Now it's time to remind people, we have no idea what the market's going to do today, but I do have a good idea what the national debt is. The national debt clock yesterday was at $28 trillion, 137 billion and going up. And we're just printing money under the new rule about reconciliation, which Kurt may or may not be talking about today. That just means the Democrats can spend for 2 more years until we win the House back. And that means the value of your money goes down, down, down every single day. They spend more time running those printing presses. Time to get some gold. And you get your gold from HughGold.com, which is your portal to Birch Gold. Birch Gold is the best in the business. I buy my gold from them, or you can move over a portion of your IRA or 401k. I recommend 10% of that in physical metals or silver if you haven't got your own physical gold at home, but one way or the other, get your hands on some gold. The era of inflation is upon us. You can do that at HughGold.com or text my name Hugh to 474747 and they will send you the information. Also, let me remind you, relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. First hour of the show is the time I normally take relieffactor.com, but I'm not in studio today. So Kurt is probably just digging into my bag of relieffactor.com, but that's fine. You only need one package a day, Kurt, after you get up to the levels you need in your body, so don't go eating all of it. They're not jelly beans. They kind of look like small jelly beans, and they go down as easy as jelly beans. You don't chew them, but you actually just swallow them. They go down easy. They make you feel great. Support for the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that plague your day. If you're about to begin your commute, you wish you had Relief Factor taken it yesterday and the whole week before it, but you can start today by going to relieffactor.com, getting your 3-week starter pack for $19.95. That's relieffactor.com. Don't go anywhere. Come right back for more Kurt Schlichter here on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Hugniverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.hugniverse.com.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Right now, if it hasn't happened, it will happen. They will simply declare classics as an example of white supremacy.
Absolutely. I think that is where we're headed. And it's a shame because classics really taught me how to analytically think and critically think. And I think that's where I developed a lot of the foundation for being able to reason through things. And it's funny, I came out as a conservative maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and a lot of people who had also studied classics, even though it's a small major at Cal, had reached out to me and said that they too were closet conservatives, which I thought was very interesting, that maybe that major is producing some people who can think for themselves.
Yeah, well, that's my old belief. Study Cicero and think clearly.
Absolutely.
It's a major motto. Can you say that in Latin?
Probably not.
You say you came out as a conservative 6 months ago. Were you in the closet until then?
Yeah, so I have always been politically inclined, and I went to Berkeley really not knowing what I believed. And I quickly started to realize that I was right-leaning because everything was just ridiculous at Berkeley.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Biden makes these assertions about this Georgia law. Says you can't give people water. Says it shrinks voting hours. Both of which are lies. Now, as you know, a man who now lives in Florida was dogged for 4 years with a running tab by one of the major newspapers about all the lies he tells. Biden tells this big, massive lies, does them quietly, doesn't scream or yell. Media doesn't say a damn thing. Now, is that because the media doesn't know he's lying? Or doesn't care? Biden said, and Nancy Pelosi just reiterated it yesterday, that 83%, notice it's never 82, never 84, it's always 83, 83% of the Trump tax cuts went to the top 1%. It's a lie. Factcheck.org says it's not true. That's a left-wing organization run by the Annenberg Foundation that's also left-wing, the Annenberg Center. PolitiFact, also run by a left-wing organization, said it's not true. Washington Post. The Washington Post, as you know, has not endorsed a Republican for president in its entire history.
Yep, somebody got murdered last night. It was Asa Hutchinson on Tucker Carlson. I am Kurt Schlichter. I am in the Relief Factor studio here in beautiful Southern California at Dark 30, guest hosting for the incredible Hugh Hewitt, who was up late last night talking China with our mutual pal Robert O'Brien, Peter Thiel, and some Mike Pompeo was in on it. It was a party. I hear there was a keg. You know, those Nixon guys party. It's like the Animal House of think tanks. At least that's what. And I didn't get invited. Instead, I'm here in the morning, really early, talking to you guys about the news of the day. And the news of the day is conservatives are fighting back. Look, we are rejecting guys like Asa Hutchinson, who vetoed a common sense bill to avoid the chemical castration and mutilation of children. And tried to justify going, well, I believe that, Ronald Reagan and William F. Buckley's vision of a limited government compels me to allow the chemical castration and mutilation of children. No, it doesn't do any of those things. I don't know why Asa Hutchinson fell for this woke nonsense, but he did. But other guys are fighting back. They are fighting back. Ron DeSantis is fighting back against the lies and slanders of 60 Minutes. You saw that yesterday. Ron DeSantis had a common sense program of utilizing the logistics system of Publix supermarkets and pharmacies, which are all over the state of Florida, to get this vaccine out to people. And he prioritized seniors, who are the most vulnerable to the virus. I, however, am not vulnerable to the virus. My powerful antibodies pummeled this puny organism into submission. But other people need the vaccine, and he delivered. And 60 Minutes, forgot about this whole Cuomo killing thousands of people through his gross incompetence or worse, and decided they had to go down to Florida to hassle the likely 2024 GOP nominee. That's right. I am saying Ron DeSantis has taken an early lead when you listen to the kind of things he's done. But he is not alone. There are other guys who are fighting the fight. And sometimes you don't suspect them. Like Brian Kemp, the Georgia governor, who was not exactly hardcore during the election fight. But now he's done after Major League Baseball and Delta and all the rest attacked his common sense election reforms like, show an ID. He got, Major League Baseball, of course, takes the All-Star game out of a majority black city and sends it to a city that is so white it thinks Mitt Romney is ethnic. Okay? And here's what Brian Kemp had to say about the whole issue. Cut 13.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, it's almost comical, just all of these hits that keep falling, moving the All-Star game from a city that's, or a metro area that's 51% African-American to a metro area that's 10% African-American that has less early voting days than Georgia has. They have 15. We have 17. They have a photo ID requirement for in-person voting. As we do the voter ID here. I mean, it's insane. I mean, you compare where Major League Baseball is headquartered in New York, and I've talked to that issue to nauseum, really, about the discrepancies in how they're boycotting and pulling games out of a state like ours, yet they're headquartered in a state that's more restricted than we are. I mean, it just doesn't add up. And I will tell you, the people here and all over the country have figured this out. They are outraged and they are sick and tired of the cancel culture.
It is time to fight back, people. It is time to stop taking their guff. Dwayne, you need not have your finger hovering over the dump button. I said guff. But you know what I meant.
Yes.
Yes. Ari Fleischer, hardly a fire-breathing, bomb-throwing conservative like me.
No, very practical George W. Bush press secretary.
Homie's gotten woke. He's woke. Cut 12.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've never been a fan of boycotts. I've never been a fan of that type of action. The left is very good at it, but I've got to say I'm coming around, because if you only allow one team to make its case, to put baseball commissioners, corporate leaders under pressure, you're going to only have one result, and that's caving to the left where the pressure comes from. Conservatives have going to have to get smart in doing things that we actually don't like to do, and that's organizing similar boycotts. And hopefully we'll get to equilibrium, and maybe everybody will stop this as a trend. You know, I've always argued, particularly when it comes to sports, if that's where we are off of DeSantis, that politics and sports should not mix. Sports should bring people together. You should leave your politics at the door and then enter the stadium. And I would like to get back to that. I was consistent. I said that about President Trump. I've said it about Joe Biden, too.
Republican politicians, are you listening? Do you understand what's going on here?
Corporate America is not your friend.
It is not your friend.
It used to be.
I don't even know. Now, I analyze this in my brilliant Townhall column tomorrow, which you should all read. They wanted their tax cuts and regulations, but, you know, they didn't want to have to explain why they were with those Jesus gun people when they were at the country club. Now it's all coming out in the open. Time for the GOP to support working Americans and small business people. You heard it here first. Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for Hugh Hewitt. Stick around. We got Matt Betley and Representative Mike Gallagher next hour and a lot more ranting. Adios.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
This is a teacher-student dialogue of a Zoom class in Virginia. Listen carefully. Play tape.
Tell me what this seems to be a picture of.
It's just two people chilling.
Right, just two people. There's nothing more to that picture?
Nah, not really. Just two people chilling.
I don't believe that you believe that. I don't believe that you look at this as just two people. I don't think
truly is just two people, though, is it not?
Yeah, but I think you're being intentionally coy about what this is a picture of.
What would I be being coy about? It's two people standing back to back in a picture.
Yeah, and that's all you see is two people.
I'm confused on what you would like me to speak on in that sense.
I don't think you are.
Well, I'm confused. Are you trying to get me to say that there are two different races in this picture?
Yes,
is that what you want me to say? Well, at the end of the day, wouldn't that just be feeding into the problem of looking at race instead of just acknowledging them as two normal people?
No, it's not, because you can't look at people and not acknowledge that there are racial differences, right?
But if we're going for, let's say if we're looking for equality within all this, then why would we need to point out things such as that?
Because those differences are real things.
Those differences are real things, says the eugenicist teaching your children. Margaret Sanger trained this public school teacher, this white school teacher, very well.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
A few weeks ago, we had on the man who's going to be the next mayor of New York, Curtis Sliwa. Well, I thought, you know what? We've got some friends across the pond. Why don't we see if we can find out who's going to be the next mayor of London? We figured out who it is. I'm not kidding. His name is Lawrence Fox. Lawrence, welcome to the program.
Hi, Eric. How are you doing?
I'm good. You're hoarse from your first stump speech, aren't you?
I am a bit. I was quite nervous doing my first stump speech, I have to say.
People don't know this. Listen, I have to frame this, and you can feel free to interrupt me. And I'm not kidding, but I want people to understand that you're initially in your life, you're an actor. You're principally known as an actor. So people want to know, why did Lawrence Fox, the actor from the acting family, suddenly decide to go into politics and to say, yes, I would like to run to be the mayor of London? I mean, again, remember that most of the audience is American. They cannot fathom what's going on in London. So give us an idea for those of us who are not following the horrors of what your current mayor is doing.
Yeah, we'll get on to my current mayor. He's dreadful. I think the reason why I'm not acting now is because about a year and a a year and a couple of months ago, I went on a TV show in England called Question Time. I went on that show and I got into an argument with someone who said that I wasn't allowed a view because of my white privilege. And I said, let's not be racist to each other. That went down pretty badly. So my show business career ended pretty quickly after that, with the Actors Union in the UK calling for me to be denounced because I berated a woman of colour.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
The Delta found out that the Georgia skies aren't so friendly to woke companies. And the takeaway from what's happening with Delta and Coca-Cola and Home Depot, and these are Georgia companies that are absolutely terrified of the Twitter mob. That's all it is. They haven't bothered to read the Georgia election integrity law because they don't care. What's in the law, truth doesn't matter to them. They just don't want to be hounded by a bunch of angry leftists who are in mama's bedroom, a basement in their underwear, furiously typing on their keyboards. So Missy writes, it's always nice when a progressive woke company that goes all political gets walloped with a face full of reality. And that's exactly what happened over at Delta. So for some reason, the Delta CEO issued a blistering statement condemning his company's home state and the efforts to have some voter integrity, some election integrity. I mean, among other things, the law requires voter ID even if you're voting by mail. Oh, heavens to Betsy, we can't have that. Delta called that voter suppression, even though, of course, you don't dare get on an airplane at Delta without showing your ID several times. Is that flying suppression, or is that just common sense?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
It is a force of pure destruction. If it's good, the left destroys it. America was largely good. America is composed of 330 million flawed human beings. It is amazing that it got as good as it did. The amazing thing is not the bad that exists, which is universal. The amazing thing is the good that exists, which is unique or extremely rare. You don't judge people by the same flaws, or you don't judge a society by the same flaws that every other one has. You judge it by what makes it exceptional, either worse, like a communist or fascist or Nazi country, or better, like America. I have a particular love of classical music, as you know. You know who love classical music the most, by far, certainly in the young generation, are Asians, Koreans, Chinese, and Japanese in particular. If you look at European orchestras, there are so many Asian players. The non-West may save the West. I'll tell you who may save Catholicism, and maybe all of Christianity, are Africans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Anger, all this energy, all this passion for a bill that they consider to be racist. Have they read it? Have they seen the Yale study that shows that despite the so-called voter suppression measures, hasn't affected the black vote at all? If anything, it might have encouraged blacks to vote even more as if to say, oh, really? You're trying to suppress my vote? I'll show you. No evidence whatsoever that these alleged voter suppression measures are in fact suppressing the black vote. None. Moreover, as I've said, poll after poll after poll over the years has shown that blacks support photo voter ID almost to the same degree as whites do. But here's what they're doing. They're characterizing the issue as they
Morning glory, America. I'm not there. I was out very late last night carousing on the West Coast with Mike Pompeo, Robert O'Brien, and Peter Thiel. That's a true story. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. In the meantime, Colonel Kurt came in early before dawn to take my space in the California studio, and I appreciate it greatly. I think he's armed. I think Dwayne even came in this morning. He always gets afraid of Kurt. He shows up when Kurt's guest hosting. So take it away, Kurt. I'm sure you're very, very pleased with Major League Baseball.
Right again, Hugh Hewitt. This is Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Townhall.com, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, retired United States Army colonel, and author of the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels. You can find them on Amazon. This is a fortuitous event. We're going to be joined by my friend Matthew Betley. He's an author. His new book, Amira, A-M-I-R-A, has just dropped yesterday. It's going to be a big hit, but he's also a former United States Marine, and there is a heartbreaking story from the Marines that we need to talk about. Matt, first, let's hit the book. How's the book doing?
The book's doing great, Kurt. This is the 5th story in the Logan West series. And what's great about this book is it's an origin story for one of the fan-favorite characters, Amira, who's a female CIA assassin and the daughter of an Italian D.C. homicide detective and an Ethiopian immigrant. And I tell the story of how she got recruited into this task force. And then it also takes place in current time in the series as she emerges from unconsciousness to try and foil an assassination plot on the CIA director. And here's the best part. This all takes place around the National Harbor in D.C., and it's just a
That's
wild,
where CPAC used
ride.
to be.
Yes, exactly.
And do I appear stumbling around with a sapphire and tonic?
I don't believe so.
Oh, man.
No,
well, Matt Betley, you've got a whole bunch of books. This is, like you said, this is the 5th. Where can people find it? Amira,
Amazon. This one is specifically for Amazon.
Nice.
It's available in ebook and what they call trade paperback, a really nice size paperback.
Amazon does a great job on them. My own Kelly Turnbull series is an Amazon exclusive, and it's really, really a great way to get your books. And you got to go get them. You got to go get Amira. But look, you spent time as a United States Marine. You served our country in Iraq. And yesterday, you and I talk a lot. And yesterday, one of the things we were talking about was a story in Marine Times. Heartbroken families of fallen sailors. A Marine sailor react to failures exposed in tragic AAV sinking investigation. Let me set the scene. Amphibious armor vehicle. These are essentially tanks that swim. They're infantry fighting vehicles that swim. And last July 30th, one sank off the California coast, killing 8 Marines, 1 sailor corpsman. And the report came out, and Matt, there was a litany of incompetence and utter leadership failures that was actually stunning. Maintenance issues, lack of training. You were as furious as I was.
Absolutely. When I read this, I was actually stunned. You know, accidents happen in training.
True.
I've known of people who were killed by mortars that landed too closely. You know, mortars that detonated inside the tube. God. You know, accidents happen. But when I read the details in this story, it's actually kind of disgusting because these Marines never had a chance, even like before this thing started, from the fact that the vehicle had been on what they call the deadline lot because
it was a broke down. It was a hangar queen.
Yep,
it's queen of the motor pool.
Yep, and I got to tell you, from the condition of the vehicle to the mentality, and really it's the mentality that this unit must have had, because when you're and if you look. All of the Marines that were killed were very junior, young, enlisted Marines.
Yes, in the back, inside this armored vehicle, the crew got out. The guys who drove the vehicle got out. These guys didn't. In fact, many of them had not had training recently on evacuating a vehicle in water. You got to understand, these are tanks that swim. I commanded a company of armored vehicles on land. When you put them in water, it makes it 100 times more dangerous, and they're already pretty damn dangerous.
Well, what's worse is that 2 of the Marines were not even swim qualified.
How do you do that?
You can't. It's actually unconscionable. And like I said, every decision that led to this was the wrong decision. When the AAV platoon told their leadership when they got the vehicles, hey, these vehicles are broken, all they did was send them 3 more mechanics and said, make it happen.
See, there's a get it done mentality, and then there's putting your guys in danger unnecessarily. The thing is, they didn't have vehicle evacuation training, most of them. In fact, and it showed, they tried to leave the vehicle underwater with their weapons and with their plate carriers and sometimes even their helmets on. Insanity. And but do you have any doubt, Matthew Betley, that every one of them had their transsexual awareness training, and that's not a joke?
I don't know.
No, of course they did, because soldiers and Marines and sailors and airmen, Coast Guardsmen, whatever space people do, they do what commanders check. And right now, commanders are checking wokeness training. They are not checking life-saving training. They are killing our soldiers.
Oh, I agree. They're definitely taking away valuable training hours that should be focused on the mission. And people seem to forget that the mission of the Marine Corps and very aggressive offensive military units, what are supposed to be offensive military units, is to kill people and blow things up. And yet, when you spend hours and hours and hours of training on all these political issues, you take away from the things that are actually important. And they do lead to accidents like this.
How can you justify even 1 second of, extremist training to root out people whose ideas don't fit in with the current regime when you've got Marines that you're going to put in the water who can't even swim, much less evacuate a swamping vehicle? Matt, you heard me yesterday, and I was not FCC compliant talking about this. I've led soldiers. You've led Marines. This is personal. And to read the stories of the heartbreak of these families betrayed by the Marine Corps because it was off. You and I were both officers. This was officer corps failure.
Oh, I agree. And what's worse, though, and the part that really hits home, and I don't think your listeners know, is that the family members are not allowed to sue the government for malpractice because of the Ferris doctrine. And that infuriates me, especially for a case like this.
The Ferris doctrine protects companies that provide services to the military and the military itself. You can't sue the military doctor for malpractice. I mean, boy, that would be a booming business. But look, I mean, the AAV is a very difficult vehicle to use. You've been in them.
Oh, so I am not a fan of them. I have equilibrium issues, especially now as I'm older. They're basically, floating death traps. You have no windows. You got the fumes in the back. Marines throw up all the time into their Kevlar helmets just because you're bouncing up and down in these rough waters. And if something goes wrong, and in this case, everything went wrong, you don't have a lot of chance for survival. I went to officer candidate school with a friend of mine who is a former enlisted Marine, and he was in one that sank in a river. He survived, but one of his friends didn't. I mean, I've heard stories about these things through years. And here's something else to think about. The Marine Corps actually hasn't used these things for a real amphibious assault since Grenada, and that was in 1983. There are much better vehicles to get the mission done than these things.
And these things were a disaster. The ramp in the back that opens up where you could, escape broken, didn't function. Egress lights, the lights that show you how to get out, like on an airplane, they have them in these vehicles. That system went out. Somebody didn't put the drain plug in.
Yep.
So the thing swamped. Where were the non-commissioned officers inspecting this stuff? I know damn well that they're being inspected on their diversity training and all that, and they weren't here. But look, we fumed enough. Let's talk about something a little more pleasant. Amira, your new book. How do people go and get it, Matt Betley?
They can get it today on Amazon, and I would urge them to do so if they're looking for an intense, action-packed roller coaster.
And how do you spell Amira?
Amira. It means princess.
It means princess.
Yes, which is a great name for a female assassin protagonist.
Well, that's I think it's great what you've done. You've gone from Marine officer to best-selling author, and I think it's great. Everybody, go out and get Amira. It's a great read. And stick around here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, and I'll be right back.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
We're back. We are back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Townhall.com, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, a retired United States Army colonel, author of the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels that every single one of you should get. They were given the highest praise possible. Bill Kristol called them appalling. And I literally put that on the back of the books. That's like a blurb. It's like Hugh Hewitt, great novels. Cam Edwards, wonderful novel. Jim Carrady, great novel. Bill Kristol, appalling. It's like, that's what people go, well, if this guy hates them, they've got to be good. Holy cow. So if you are watching today in the Hugh-niverse, which you should be, you could see me, and you can see that I'm dressed like a hobo who got thrown up by another hobo. You will notice that my nose is red, that I look like a Kennedy on a Sunday morning. And by the way, I saw Teddy. I worked in Congress for a short time as an intern. I think it was 86 for Duncan Hunter 1.0. He kept a shotgun in his closet. We got along famously. And I got very close to Ted Kennedy at one point. And that guy, he smelled like a distillery. It was amazing. So anyway, my nose is red because I was in Arizona. I took my family on vacation to Arizona, and it was a lot like the California Inland Empire. Like Fontana just continued over all the way to Santa, New Mexico. It was a very hot, very deserty. I saw cactus, which I was excited about. Cacti, I guess, is the plural. But we went to Phoenix, stayed at a nice little resort, and then we went up to Sedona, which is the vortex of a bunch of new age, positive waves, and they're big purple, pink rocks, and it looks like you should see Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner around it. It was pretty cool, and as I am wont to do, I noticed there was a wine tasting place near where I was staying. So I went over there. It's called Decanter. It was very nice. Went inside. The guy was like, we don't wear masks in here, which was okay because I wasn't wearing a mask because I won't wear a mask except at gunpoint. If it's your establishment and you want me to wear a mask, fine, it's yours. I'll wear a mask and then I'll choose where I'm coming in. I don't wear masks outside. I don't wear masks in the car. Like I said, my powerful antibodies have pummeled the puny virus into submission already. So I am immune, and I just radiate that kind of potency. But anyway, I go in, and I start talking to the guy, Ken, who runs the place. And he's a California expatriate. Surprise, surprise. And he's running this bar. And I'm drinking, little tastes of Arizona wine, and they were actually good. A lot of Mourvedre, La Syrah, La Grenache. But it all kind of has a Pinot vibe, if you know what I'm saying. And I think you do. And I'm talking to this guy, and we're talking a little about politics. Turns out we're both on the right. And he goes, yeah, I think we kind of need a civil war. I'm like, well, that's a new take. So I'm sitting there luxuriating in the fact that for the first time in my entire life, I'm the most liberal guy in a room. Right? Everybody else is nodding. They're all packing heat, right? Because it's a constitutional carry state. So, they're all armed. They're all nodding their heads. And I'm going, God, I am the most liberal guy in the room. I feel weak. Like I don't have any upper body strength anymore. And I was tempted to create new pronouns for myself. And it came up that I said, on Wednesday, I got a call yesterday. Hugh Hewitt asked me to guest host on next Wednesday. So I'm going to guest. I love Hugh Hewitt. He's great. I love Hugh Hewitt. And I'm like, oh, I'm never going to live this one down. This is just, I've got to do it because this is going to be painful for Dwayne. Because I had this total stranger just praising Hugh to the rafters. But I did get sunburned. That's why my nose is red. Long story about why in the Hugh-niverse I look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Right-Winger. In any case, so you great listeners out in Arizona, thank you for hosting me. Love your cactus. Love your food, too. I had some great brisket. It was terrific. In any case, we're coming back with Mike Gallagher. Representative Mike Gallagher, not the radio host Hugh gets mistaken for. Representative Mike Gallagher. We'll be back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm Chris, host Kurt Schlichter. Stick around.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Anger, all this energy, all this passion for a bill that they consider to be racist. Have they read it? Have they seen the Yale study that shows that despite the so-called voter suppression measures, hasn't affected the black vote at all? If anything, it might have encouraged blacks to vote even more, as if to say, oh, really? You're trying to suppress my vote? I'll show you. No evidence whatsoever that these alleged voter suppression measures are in fact suppressing the black vote. None. Moreover, as I've said, poll after poll after poll over the years has shown that blacks support photo voter ID almost to the same degree as whites do. But here's what they're doing. They're characterizing the issue, as they always do, as an attack against black people. That way, blacks remain eternally angry. The Democrats continue their image as the party of pro-social justice, and they characterize the Republican Party as a party that wants to attack black people. Explain, if the Republican Party is a party that wants to attack black people, why it is that this black man, Representative Byron Donalds of Florida, said this about the Georgia bill.
The Democrats are race baiting. They are wrong. Look, I've reviewed the Georgia.
Must be an Uncle Tom.
Law myself. What Georgia's doing is the absolute right thing. I know the president's running around trying to tell people that you can't give somebody a cup of water, but that's not what Georgia law says. What Georgia law says is that you can't give people something of value when they're in lines getting ready to vote, because, you know, we don't want to buy off votes in America. That's like a sound concept. That's what we should be doing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. Among my many, many CV entries are Townhall senior columnist and retired United States Army colonel. I'm being joined by Representative Mike Gallagher of the great state of Wisconsin now, and he's a Marine. And normally I would have some good-humored poking and prodding between the services, between the Army and the Marines. Today, I'm too damn angry to. Congressman Gallagher, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Colonel, it's great to hear your voice again.
Well, I wish I didn't have to bring this up, but I can't let it pass. There's a devastating article in the Marine Times dated March 29th by Philip Athey titled "Heartbroken Families of Fallen Marines Sailor React to Failures Exposing Tragic AAV Amphibious Armored Vehicle Sinking Investigation." Last July 30th, a AAV went down. It got swamped on the coast of California. 8 Marines, 1 sailor who was corpsman, who were in the back, were unable to escape. Well, some of them escaped, but they died swimming to the surface. Mike, are you familiar with this, and are you familiar with the results of this investigation?
Yeah, and have a hearing on it. Maybe not an official hearing, a briefing on it later this week. First of all, it's a tragedy, an absolute tragedy, and your heart goes out to the families, the 9 men, the 8 Marines that lost their lives. But when you read the report, I mean, it's hard not to feel your blood boil. They talk about did not properly train or equip the platoon for a very difficult new training.
Mike, can we take a second? Can you call us back? We're having a little trouble with your line. Now, folks, while we're waiting for Representative Gallagher and United States Marine to come back, let me tell you what happened. This vehicle went out to sea. These are tanks that swim. Now, I commanded an armored vehicle company in the Army on land, and they're dangerous enough there. In the sea, it's multiplied by 100. There was a litany of failures in training, failures in maintenance. This was a motor pool queen vehicle. It had multiple problems, including a ramp that couldn't go down, egress lights, the lights showing the exit, they wouldn't activate. Many of the soldiers weren't even trained not only to evacuate the vehicle, but to swim. Mike Gallagher, as a Marine, what do you think of this?
I think it's indicative of a force that's overworked, undermanned, underfunded, and under-resourced. And in many cases, we're paying for defense cuts and a lack of readiness with the lives of our service members. And the fact that the report shows that they did not properly train or equip this platoon for a very difficult mission is unconscionable, absolutely unconscionable. And I think, Colonel, as you step back and look at it, you have to put it in the context of a chain of accidents over the last decade and a half that in my mind starts at least with, there was a 2009 incident with a Cobra that hit a C-130 at nighttime that killed 9 people.
Oh, jeez.
There was a 2016 incident where an Osprey hit a tanker at nighttime. There was a 2016 F-18 incident where an F-18 hit a tanker that was downplayed. There was a 2018 tragic incident where an F-18 hit a USNC tanker that killed 6, lost 2 planes, and then the investigations officer publicly was lambasted by a 3-star for publishing too much. And then we had an F-35 incident that hit a tanker during the daytime in 2020. I see organizational similarities between all of these things, and I think the Marine Corps really needs to step back and look at the organizational culture that we have right now, and the fact that we have so many of these accidents because either people are not being held accountable or we're not learning as an organization. It's not just enough to say we have insufficient resources is what I'm getting at. We really need to think about whether we are actually punishing those responsible or are we punishing those who are sounding the alarm, who are being sidelined for noting problems or noting people who deviate from the rules and from high training standards.
Well, Representative Mike Gallagher, I think I think there's some huge problems there. I'm not going to blame I refuse to blame lack of resources for this. This was Leadership 101, where you inspect the vehicle. You would have seen that the drain plug was out. You would have seen that the rear ramp was broken, so it couldn't lower. You have seen the egress lights didn't work. Who inspected this vehicle, and who inspected the inspector? Where was the lieutenant? Where was the captain? I know where the colonels were. They were both relieved, but that doesn't change anything. And here's the other thing: you have 7 of these guys were not qualified on vehicle escape underwater. Basic kind of training. 2 of them were not swim qualified. But you know what? Because commanders do what gets checked. I'll bet every single one of them had their transsexual awareness training. They found time to stand down for 60 days for this extremism crap. But they can't find time to keep our Marines alive. I am outraged. I'll tell you, the retired network lit up when this came out yesterday because this is the problem. Focus on baloney instead of saving our troops' lives.
And there the parallels are quite striking with the 2016 incident, because there you had pilots that simply were not qualified. They weren't rated green for night tanker operations. So they were flying when they hadn't done their basic qualification. And the commanding officers, the higher ups in the chain of command, weren't insisting on the highest level standards of excellence. So I think you're absolutely right that we can't simply point to a lack of resources. This, to me, is a bigger cultural issue. And then particularly in the aviation community, there's a tendency to protect the higher officers and, as I said before, punish those who are outspoken in noting problems or deviations from high standards. So I think the Marine Corps has a huge problem here. And as you know, I mean, I love the Marine Corps. I'm a huge champion of the Marine Corps. I think the Commandant's doing a great job thinking innovatively about how we fight China. The other thing I'd say with China in mind is, the Commandant is rightfully rethinking the role of amphibious assault for the Marine Corps as an organizing principle going forward. It's simply not going to be the case that we're going to be storming, the beaches of Taiwan or mainland China with a bunch of AAVs going forward. That's a highly unlikely scenarios. There's a broader question about the utility of these platforms in great power competition and the type of war we're likely to face going forward.
Well, that's true, Representative Gallagher. The Marine Corps is reorienting in the Pacific. I'd like to learn more about it. Now, they seem to be going back to their Marine Raider roots, like the Makin Island attack in World War II, which went very badly. We got mauled. And this is very dangerous stuff. This is very dangerous to our Marines, especially if they don't have the kind of fire support, that is air, naval gunfire, that they need. Now, they're talking about, we're going to have a bunch of unmanned vehicles that'll provide fire support from out in the sea. Who's going to pay for that when we're spending $3 trillion on, Pete Buttigieg's cross-country high-speed rail boondoggle?
Well, we simply just need to redefine defense spending as infrastructure, and then suddenly, apparently, we'll have $2 trillion.
Yeah, we're investing in it.
Well, Colonel, I'd like to get back to something you said, sort of the controversial nature of this 60-day stand-down for white supremacy.
It's a disaster.
To me, the risk is even greater. In other words, it's not just that you're forcing, a Lance Corporal or an entire platoon of Marines to sit down for a whole day and do a PowerPoint on white supremacy when they need to be learning things like how to open an AAV escape hatch
and maybe take off your plate carrier before you try and swim. I don't know.
Exactly, but it's actually broader because what you're sending the message to Americans and to America's enemies that somehow the American military is endemic with racism and white supremacy, which is something that the Chinese Communist Party loves to propagate on our social media platform.
Let me ask you something, Congressman Gallagher. In all your time in the Marines, did you ever meet a white supremacist?
Not once, and I actually served in very diverse units.
We all did. I was in 27 years. I was in 27 years. And the idea that it's some sort of boiling cauldron of racial hate is a lie.
Here's what Marines care about. They don't care about the color of your skin. They care how many pull-ups can you do. Can you hit a target from a certain distance? Can I count on you to carry the radio when it's your turn to carry the radio? Can you get the job done without whining? No one cares what the color of your skin is. That's what's great about the military. The military is this gigantic melting pot where you put people through a tough crucible and you force them to work together to get the job done.
Exactly.
I simply did not encounter that in my time in the Marine Corps. And more to the point, when we had this hearing 2 weeks ago, none of the witnesses could muster any evidence or an iota of data to suggest that there's an increase in extremism, particularly white supremacist extremism, within the military. We don't even have a baseline from which to measure it.
Well, it's all baloney, and it's all definitely comes from the top, because the Democrat administration wants a military in turmoil. It wants this kind of political officer, because that's effectively what they are, a bunch of Zampolets going in there and policing the mindset of our troops. And our troops are pushing back, and good ones are going to leave, and bad ones are going to flourish, and the Chinese are going to eat our lunch.
That's the concern. We already had a problem with retention in the military prior to this woke ideology affecting. We are going to have a bigger problem convincing people to stay if they feel like they can't, progress through the ranks in the military without adopting the appropriate woke political position, because that should have no place in the United States military.
Exactly, Representative Gallagher. Thank you for fighting the fight. The next time the brass comes before you in Congress to testify, please hit them up about the fact that diversity nonsense kills our troops. This is Kurt Schlichter. I'm guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. Stick around.
Don't go anywhere. Kurt Schlichter doing a pretty good job today, but of course I have to come back and do the pitches for our friends at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. Do not forget andrewandtodd.com. I went and saw them on Monday, went to their office. Everyone was busy getting loans closed, and I really mean busy, because it is the best of times for refinancing your home or buying a home. And they are working around the clock. Around the clock. Those people take their work home with them. They get it done. They are your bankers. Sierra Pacific Mortgage is a bank. andrewandtodd.com is the best branch in that bank. And what you want to do is call them at 888-888-1172 and tell them what you need. Do you need a new loan? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to get a pre-qualification letter? Do you want to refinance your house and get money out of it at these ridiculously low rates? Now is the time to do that. andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com. They'll even work with Kurt. Now, Kurt does not have relieffactor.com with him. He comes fully equipped. I think he's carrying, etc. But he does not have relieffactor.com with him. And so he uses my stash in the studio. And I resent that a little bit, but like I said, he's carrying, so I'm not going to make too much of a trouble out of it. Relieffactor.com should be in your house, in your car, especially in the ladder. If you're on your way to work this morning, you don't hear me, you're listening to Kurt, and you're saying to yourself, where's Hewitt? I was out way late last night and can't get up this way early in my last week in California. But I'll feel fine when I do wake up, even though I was up very late, because I take relieffactor.com every single day. And I'll take it as soon as I get out of bed today. Relieffactor.com, $19.95. Gives you a 3-week starter pack. I think if you go and read all of the great testimonials, they might persuade you. But listen to me, I take it on the air every day that I'm there, and I mean it. It works. It works for me. It will work for you. Give it a try, relieffactor.com. Then come back for more Kurt Schlichter right after this on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Hughiverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.hughiverse.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
You cease to amaze me is sometimes the stupidity that comes out of your mouth.
The expression is never cease to amaze me as you're calling me stupid. I'm just saying.
About the George Floyd trial.
Actually, it's the Derek Chauvin trial. George Floyd is dead.
YouTube last
so as you call me stupid, just pointing out a few things.
Year, they had white officers answering calls to white people. 2 of them had knives, and in both instances, the officers took them down without any incident. Why don't you have your research staff research that sometimes before you go around flapping your gums about...
Flapping my gums? Is that racist?
It seems like you just on one side of the fence all the time, the one that butters your bread, I guess. So you have a nice evening.
On one side of the fence all the time, the one that butters your bread, you have a nice evening. I will say one more time, sir. The police kill every year more unarmed whites than they kill unarmed blacks. Heather McDonald says that a black man is 18.5 times more likely to kill a white cop than the other way around. Is that relevant to you? The number one cause of preventable death for young white men is accidents, car accidents, drownings, things like that. Number one cause of preventable death for young black men, homicide, almost always at the hands of another young black man. The percentage of blacks who are unarmed, killed by cops, represents roughly 1/3 of 1% of all the blacks who are killed in this country every year. Is that at all relevant?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Even when they're not on some cable channel shock jock platform, they don't care. One of the bravest, best Americans I know was my colleague Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's sitting there at the White House Correspondents Association annual dinner when somebody else who says she's a comedian, well, says this as she's standing next to her.
Every time Sarah steps up to the podium, I get excited because I'm not really sure what we're going to get. You know, a press briefing, a bunch of lies, or divided into softball teams. It's shirts and skins, and this time don't be such a little Jim Acosta. I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies. It's probably lies. And I'm never really sure what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, is it Sarah Sanders? Is it Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Is it Cousin Huckabee? Is it Auntie Huckabee Sanders? Like, what's Uncle Tom but for white women who
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, and I am riled up. Now, I took a plane over to Arizona and back with my family the other day. It was, I don't think, on the way out there, I don't think they missed a bump. I mean, I think they were like, hey, there's turbulence. Let's steer into that. That was just fine. Sometimes it's turbulent. That's how airplanes work. And we came back. And I took an airplane over the Grand Canyon with my family. Once again, the pilot failed to miss a single bump. And we're in this little plane. And I'm like, look at the pilot. And he knows what he's not worried. He's not worried. You know, I'm thinking, maybe I want to get my 6th parachute jump. But he's not worried. And he landed safely because he's a good pilot. He was not from our country. He had an accent. But he was a good pilot. He did what he needed to do. Let's contrast this mindset with that of United Airlines, which 22 hours ago tweeted the following: our flight deck should reflect the diverse group of people on board our planes every day. That's why we plan for 50% of the 5,000 pilots we train in the next decade to be women or people of color. Learn more and apply now. Wait, stop! Stop! Okay, your flight, your people on board should not be the determining factor of who your pilots are. Your pilots should be the best. They should be the best. Who is the constituency in America besides the woke lunatics at the New York Times and in the corporate boardrooms and in the faculty lounges who are like, sure, flying a plane's a pretty big deal, but we ought to choose who does it by how they use the bathroom or where their great-great-grandfather immigrated from. Who's that guy? I mean, who's the constituency for that? Look, I don't care if my pilot is a handicapped lesbian Hindu. It is irrelevant to me. I want the best. Merit. Yes, merit's a thing, I know. Right? Merit is just white supremacy. No, merit is merit. And I hate the underlying premise that somehow people who do not look like Mitt Romney somehow can't compete. That is so condescending and so disgusting. And yeah, it's actually racist, not fake racist, not BS racist that they say about every conservative out there, every normal person out there. No, that's real racism. Real racism. I'm not a big fan of the Bushes, but the soft bigotry of low expectations is a real thing. It is condescending and it is disgusting. And this idea, United, you got problems because, okay, it's illegal to discriminate against people on the basis of race and gender. Okay?
So, and this decision is specifically that.
Specifically say that. As a lawyer, I'm looking at that going, okay, my new Tesla will be, emerald green with a nice white interior. Or is that racist? I don't know. Look, this is, first of all, you're going to get sued when you start doing this. You're going to get sued, and I hope you get sued in places like Texas and, get sued. You'll move it to a federal court. It'll go to the Fifth Circuit, and you will lose because the Fifth Circuit has some common sense.
And may God have mercy on United if a plane goes down with one of these tires.
Now,
because no court will.
Well, let me tell you, if a plane crashes and it is pilot error, okay, no matter what color they are, the company's going to be responsible. Respondeat superior. Company's responsible for what the pilot does. So whoever it is, it's regular damages. Your damage, your loss of your loved one. But if they can show a jury and say, Texas, hey, they hired this person because his grandfather came from a country that is now Ghana instead of this other guy who is the wrong color to United, who had 5,000 more flying hours in the Air Force and was, on paper, a significantly better pilot, then you open the door to punitive damages, and you begin to multiply the damages. A dead person is worth a couple $1,000,000. Punitive damages on top, and that doesn't come from insurance, okay? You can't insure against punitive damages. In most states, it is illegal to insure punitive damages. You can insure regular damage. You can insure your own negligence. But punitive damages, no, that comes out of your pocket. So, what do the shareholders of United think about the exposure that these guys are opening up to for the sole purpose of enabling racism and sexism? Because that's what this is. Like I said, I don't care anything about my pilot except that person is the best person to fly that jumbo jet. That is all I care about. That's all you should care about.
The highest odds of keeping that plane in the air and putting it in the right spot. That's all I care about.
I don't care about anything else. You are not going to make a point with my life or with my family's life without pushback. And I hope there's plenty. As a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, I look at something like this and say, yeah, that summer house in Paso Robles wine country, ka-ching! I am Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Stick around for another hour of radio magic.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Coca-Cola, cowards, read the damn bill. It doesn't suppress anybody unless you're of the mindset, if you're black, you're too dumb to figure out how to get ID to vote. That's suppression because we know how black people are. We know how brown people are. They're not intelligent enough to get an ID put together. They can't go down to the DMV or they can't figure out a way to get just a state ID. They can't. We can't expect our poor black friends to do that. That's the left. That's the mindset. That's the thinking of Democrats. Now, Ed Bastian's company, Delta, won't be so forgiving for somebody who's too ignorant to get an ID and let them get on their plane, because you can't fly Delta without a photo ID, a legitimate ID. But don't you dare expect a black or brown Georgian to be smart enough to figure out how to produce an ID when they vote. That's suppression. No, that's not suppression. That's idiocy. That is stupidity at the highest level, and everybody knows it. So good for the Georgia State Legislature for pushing back and telling Delta to go stick it in your ear. They ought to say the same thing. They ought to do the same thing to Coca-Cola, to Home Depot, to any of these companies who are playing this pitiful game of lying about the Georgia election integrity law. They are lies.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
Right now, if it hasn't happened, it will happen. They will simply declare classics as an example of white supremacy.
Absolutely. I think that is where we're headed. And it's a shame because classics really taught me how to analytically think and critically think. And I think that's where I developed a lot of the foundation for being able to reason through things. And it's funny, I came out as a conservative maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And a lot of people who had also studied classics, even though it's a small major at Cal, had reached out to me and said that they too were closet conservatives, which I thought was very interesting, that maybe that major is producing some people who can think for themselves.
Yeah, well, that's my old belief. Study Cicero and think clearly.
Absolutely.
It's a major motto. Can you say that in Latin?
Probably not.
You say you came out as a conservative 6 months ago. Were you in the closet until then?
Yeah, so I have always been politically inclined, and I went to Berkeley really not knowing what I believed. And I quickly started to realize that I was right-leaning because everything was just ridiculous at Berkeley.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Biden makes these assertions about this Georgia law. Says you can't give people water. Says it shrinks voting hours. Both of which are lies. Now, as you know, a man who now lives in Florida was dogged for 4 years with a running tab by one of the major newspapers about all the lies he tells. Biden tells this big, massive lies, does them quietly, doesn't scream or yell. Media doesn't say a damn thing. Now, is that because the media doesn't know he's lying? Or doesn't care? Biden said, and Nancy Pelosi just reiterated it yesterday, that 83%, notice it's never 82, never 84, it's always 83, 83% of the Trump tax cuts went to the top 1%. It's a lie. Factcheck.org says it's not true. That's a left-wing organization run by the Annenberg Foundation that's also left-wing, the Annenberg Center. PolitiFact, also run by a left-wing organization, said it's not true. Washington Post. The Washington Post, as you know, has not endorsed a Republican for president in its entire history. That's how left-wing they are. They said it's not true. The left claimed the top 1% are undertaxed. It's a lie. My point is, Biden says these things.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I had a kind of epiphany today. Maybe I'm a big softy deep down. If you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. But sometimes, especially, let me get personal. Not when I get attacked, but even then, when it's really vituperative, when it's really despicable, I have a certain feeling. But when they attack my family, and when they've attacked my children, there's usually a point in the year where I just find myself asking a certain question, a very human question. Why do they do that? Why would you do that to a fellow human being? And it puzzles me because I could never do that. I can be harsh. I can be very robust in what I say. Some would say aggressive. But it's not because I detest and wish to destroy human beings. I'm a rational human, and I can separate the person from the ideology, the sin from the sinner. I don't wish to destroy my fellow man. If you threaten my family, I will kill you. That is what every father and husband should be prepared to do. You try to use lethal force against somebody I love, and I will die to save them.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
This is a teacher-student dialogue of a Zoom class in Virginia. Listen carefully. Play tape.
Tell me what this seems to be a picture of.
It's just two people chilling.
Right, just two people. There's nothing more to this picture?
Nah, not really. Just two people chilling.
I don't believe that you believe that. I don't believe that you look at this as just two people. I don't think
truly
you
is just two people, though, is it not?
Yeah, but I think you're being intentionally coy about what this is a picture of.
What would I be being coy about? It's two people standing back to back in a picture.
Morning glory, America. I'm not there. I was out very late last night carousing on the West Coast with Mike Pompeo, Robert O'Brien, and Peter Thiel. That's a true story. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. In the meantime, Colonel Kurt came in early before dawn to take my space in the California studio, and I appreciate it greatly. I think he's armed. I think Dwayne even came in this morning. He always gets afraid of Kurt. He shows up when Kurt's guest hosting. So take it away, Kurt. I'm sure you're very, very pleased with Major League Baseball.
Oh, I certainly am. I'm pleased that the mask has fallen away. My name is Kurt Schlichter. I am the senior columnist at Townhall.com. I am a retired United States Army colonel and a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. I am the author of the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels that are full of action and novels. And you should go get them on Amazon. Are you as angry as I am about this whole woke thing? Are you as motivated as I am about this whole woke thing? Because like I said, the mask has fallen off. We have seen the truth, and it's time to fight. Give me a call. Tell me what you think you ought to do, or we ought to do as a group, as a party, as a movement to fight this wokeness. 800-520-1234. Yeah, I want you to call me and tell me how we fight back against MLB, Delta, Coke, and the rest of the corporate cat's paws for the Democrat establishment. 800-520-1234. When I think of woke, I think of one guy, Ned Ryun of American Majority. Ned, are you ready to fight?
I'm ready to fight, but I don't know why you made the correlation between woke and Ned Ryun, except for it's woke.
Ironic
in the right
woke.
Way.
Conserva woke.
But you know what? It's woke in the right way, Kurt.
Exactly.
I know what time we're in.
Exactly.
Unlike many of these Republicans who are out there fumbling around, not even sure what. I watched the interview last night with Tucker and Asa Hutchinson.
Oh my gosh! Did you report that murder to the local law enforcement agency?
9 minutes of self-immolation of you're an idiot. But you know what? I think Tucker is doing a great service to this country, in which he's bringing on the Noams and the Hutchinson.
I know, right?
Hutchinson.
Oh, now remember, Kristi Noem. When you say Kristi, she gets an exclamation point.
Oh, that's right. Well, you know what?
Asa too. Asa exclamation point.
They all get exclamation points because what Tucker is doing is exposing some of these supposed conservatives and really calling them onto the mat on a variety of issues. And, of course, they're failing miserably. But I think what he needs to do, and I told him this, you need to bring on the remaining – there's 27 total Republican governors. He just brought on DeSantis. He's brought on Noem. He's brought on Hutchinson. Bring the rest on, and let's have a real conversation about how conservative these guys are, and let's get some real clarity because I think Republicans, a lot of the establishment Republicans we know are complete failures, but they're being exposed even more now. And these supposed conservatives, when push comes to shove, maybe they're not that conservative. But you asked at the beginning, what do we do with these woke corporations? We beat them like rented mules.
Yes.
And
I want to be clear. We love mules, leased or owned, but sometimes they have to be beaten.
But we take away the corporate tax breaks.
Yes.
We do all these things.
Why are we doing
down in Georgia?
Ned Ryun, why are we doing favors for these big companies? All they do is act as agents for the Democrats and shaft us. They give money to people who hate us, and then when the Democrats are trying to tax them, suddenly they're well, conservative principles indicate that you should spread your political capital on us. No thanks.
But this is the problem, though, Kurt. I think a lot of people, especially in Republican circles, have mistaken corporatism for capitalism.
Yes,
it's not the same.
It is not.
These corporations. And so there's one thing that people have to understand. There's a huge difference between corporatism and capitalism, right? The corporations, crony capitalism, government subsidies, working hand in hand with big government, big corporations, bad. Capitalism is going back to the idea that we want to have innovation. We want to have a free market. We want to see entrepreneurs rise to the surface, to have that competition, to better not only the marketplace, but the American people as a whole. So a lot of Republicans have completely missed the boat on this and have mistaken this corporatism for capitalism, and they need to get woke on this subject. They need to understand. I'm writing my next piece for American Greatness on the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And I'm calling it the Chamber of Swamp because I think people finally realize, even some of these ridiculous Republicans here in D.C. finally realized in 2020 that the Chamber of Commerce is no longer their friend for even just establishment Republicans.
Oh, but they want to be our friends now, Ned Ryun. The Democrat tax burden is going to increase, and Republicans go out and fight for us big corporations. How about any corporation over $250 million? Yeah, you get your taxes raised. That's fine with me.
Exactly.
Go fight your own battle.
Yeah,
get your Democrat friends. Let them do it.
The other thing that worries me too in this, Kurt, is we're almost kind of operating now in this country because we missed the boat on corporatism. We're almost operating under two separate constitutions, right? We have the real Constitution that we're supposed to operate under, where Americans have the right to free speech and free flow of information. All these things we've been guaranteed under our Constitution. Then we've got the corporate Constitution, which Democrats are using very successfully to actually advance their ideals of censoring speech they don't like, of shutting down information flow they don't like. I mean, this is the part where Republicans need to wake up and understand when monopolies are starting to dominate, big corporations and monopolies are starting to dominate the marketplace, they're the ones that have decided we are the arbiters of free speech and the free flow of information.
Exactly.
It's a very dangerous place. Republicans need to go back to their roots and understand it is a Republican tradition to break and bust monopolies. Wake up, go back to Teddy Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, get righteous on the issue.
Exactly, Ned Ryun. Now, look, there are a lot of bow-tie conservative virgins out there who are, the George Wills and the the rest of them, the domesticated, licensed conservative commentators and regime
Controlled
supporters.
opposition.
Exactly. Who are, conservative principles demand that we submit, and it's their property rights. Look, I refuse, and I wrote about this I write about this tomorrow in my Townhall column. I refuse to have any conservative principle that makes me less free. And I care exactly as much about big corporations' property rights as they care about my civil rights, which is not at all. You want to play horsey, boys? This is horsey.
Let's get down to brass tacks and understand we live in a country in which we are to protect and have the rights to self-governance. We are the ones that are all power flows from the American people, right? That's the whole basic principle of our Constitution.
Well, that's what I learned in civics. Probably changed.
That's a whole other issue over the last however many decades, and we're not being taught that for a reason. But at some point, it comes down to brass tacks. Are we advancing principles and policies and entities that are making us more free or less free? And as you look across this battlefield of American society, we've got all these Republicans that have been advancing or quite frankly, leaving the battlefield on whether it's corporations, whether it's education, whether it's all these things. And then the weak, they're private corporations. We can't do anything about that. Do you want the American people to be free and enjoy all the freedoms, their God-given rights, or not?
Yeah,
yes
as William F. Buckley
adamantly, yes, get out.
As William F. Buckley said, it doesn't matter whether I'm being oppressed by the government or General Motors. I don't want to be oppressed. The thing we see, and we saw this with Asa Hutchinson yesterday when he got just butchered on Tucker Carlson, where he comes on and essentially argues, well, I had to veto a bill that kept children from being chemically and surgically castrated because of William F. Buckley and Ronald Reagan's commitment to limited government. Look, Ned, do you recall? I mean, it's been a while, but I don't think Ronald Reagan would have signed on to chemically castrating or surgically castrating children.
It's bizarre, and the thing that was funny, I told my wife, I'm like, Tucker let that segment go for 9 minutes.
Oh, it was. I was like, please, he's already dead. Stop.
Oh, he was already dead, but it was glorious because he was not going to let him off the floor.
And he thought he was doing a great job. He thought this is a really good idea. Christy Noam, ! Had the same. She gets on there and she thinks she's going to explain to us rubes why it's super cool that she says she's going to sign a bill keeping boys from destroying women's sports, and then she vetoes it because the Chamber of Commerce tells her not to, and she thinks she's going to explain it to us because we're dumb.
This is what I can't understand. You Republicans, supposed conservatives, I don't know where you got lost, but if you are not advancing policies, this is another fundamental point where Republicans had better get woke on. Why do we have political power? Right? Why have we been given political power? It is to advance our ideas and policies to actually strengthen the individual and strengthen the American family, which leads to a stronger society.
You are absolutely correct, Ned Ryun of American Greatness. Read everything he writes there, and I want you to call. I want you to call and tell me how we fight back against this political correctness nonsense. 800-520-1234. If you hate cancel culture, if you hate corporate fascism, if you hate all this garbage that's going down, call me up. Give me a solution. 800-520-1234. It's a Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. Stick around for your calls. The board's lighting up.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
The Delta found out that the Georgia skies aren't so friendly to woke companies. And the takeaway from what's happening with Delta and Coca-Cola and Home Depot, and these are Georgia companies that are absolutely terrified of the Twitter mob. That's all it is. They haven't bothered to read the Georgia election integrity law because they don't care. What's in the law truth doesn't matter to them. They just don't want to be hounded by a bunch of angry leftists who are in mama's bedroom, a basement in their underwear, furiously typing on their keyboards. So Missy writes, it's always nice when a progressive woke company that goes all political gets walloped with a face full of reality. And that's exactly what happened over at Delta. So for some reason, the Delta CEO issued a blistering statement condemning his company's home state and the efforts to have some voter integrity, some election integrity. I mean, among other things, the law requires voter ID even if you're voting by mail. Oh, heavens to Betsy, we can't have that. Delta called that voter suppression, even though, of course, you don't dare get on an airplane at Delta without showing your ID several times. Is that flying suppression, or is that just common sense?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
It is a force of pure destruction. If it's good, the left destroys it. America was largely good. America is composed of 330 million flawed human beings. It is amazing that it got as good as it did. The amazing thing is not the bad that exists, which is universal. The amazing thing is the good that exists, which is unique or extremely rare. You don't judge people by the same flaws, or you don't judge a society by the same flaws that every other one has. You judge it by what makes it exceptional, either worse, like a communist or fascist or Nazi country, or better, like America. I have a particular love of classical music, as you know. You know who love classical music the most, by far, certainly in the young generation, are Asians, Koreans, Chinese, and Japanese in particular. If you look at European orchestras, there are so many Asian players. The non-West may save the West. I'll tell you who may save Catholicism, and maybe all of Christianity, are Africans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Anger, all this energy, all this passion for a bill that they consider to be racist. Have they read it? Have they seen the Yale study that shows that despite the so-called voter suppression measures, hasn't affected the black vote at all? If anything, it might have encouraged blacks to vote even more, as if to say, oh, really? You're trying to suppress my vote? I'll show you. No evidence whatsoever that these alleged voter suppression measures are in fact suppressing the black vote. None. Moreover, as I've said, poll after poll after poll over the years has shown that blacks support photo voter ID.
Oh, I'm the problem child. Problem child for the Republican Party because I'm telling it like it is. I'm telling them you need to square your stuff away. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, in for the great Hugh Hewitt. And I've got some people with solutions of their own. I've got Tom in Michigan. Tom, what is your solution to the problem of cancel culture?
Well, I was gonna go more at the corporate takeover. How the big corporations.
Well, tell us what's the solution.
Okay, it's the problem with the income tax. Originally debated in the Constitution, all direct taxes had to be
All right,
apportioned.
sounds like you're going off topic. We don't tolerate that here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program, particularly when Colonel Kurt Schlichter is guest hosting. Joe, what is your solution to the problem?
We need to stop talking and start taking action. Like, we need to boycott Major League Baseball. We need to quit going to baseball games.
Heck yeah!
We need to burn our season tickets if we
Preach
have.
it!
We need
Preach
to
it, brother!
protest outside of all the stadiums and say election security is not racist.
No, election security is not racist, Joe. And I don't think we should pretend it is. JR, what is your solution?
My solution is with this airline situation. Any minority that has applied for a job with airlines in the last couple of years, they need to sue them because they just admitted that they have not been hiring based on their,
that's interesting.
They've been hiring just strictly. They admitted they've just been hiring just white guys.
Well, look, hiring just white guys is as wrong as hiring somebody else who's not a white guy because of who they are. Do you want to fly a plane with anybody but the very best?
No, I don't.
Do you care where the grandfather or great-grandfather of the guy or gal piloting or gender-neutral individual who's non-binary but doesn't fully identify with any gender and is kind of fluid, do you care where such people came from? Other than their skill to fly a plane.
I'm a black person, and I could not care less what color the pilot is or the flight attendant, as long as they can do their job and get me from point A to point B without crashing the plane. That's all I care about.
Do you find it condescending and kind of insulting that the airline apparently feels that people of color somehow can't compete for these positions?
It's highly offensive, and it's just the same like with the voter ID and all this stuff. Somehow minorities can't get on the internet. We can't get ID cards. I mean, my grandmother, last time I saw her, she was in a nursing home. She was 80-something years old, never worked outside the home from, after she got married, one of those types. Guess what she had in her nursing home on the wall? An ID card.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's mortifying. I mean, if I was saying things like that, and that's what these people are saying, I'd be ashamed of myself. My mom would be like, "What the heck is wrong with you? You weren't raised like this."
Exactly. I don't know anybody who doesn't have an ID of some type.
Well,
I know people don't even have jobs.
Well, JR, I want to thank you for your call. That was important. Mary, what do you think? You're in Tampa, home of Rick DeSantis.
Hello, and I work for the VA where it's the same thing. They want a certain number of people for nursing instead of who's qualified, whatever.
That's just horrible.
The law was a very good point for malpractice. I think what you have to do is you have to educate people out there on who's who, the history of them, who have they taken money from. Asa Hutchinson has probably dealt with the Chinese.
And with Walmart, no doubt, since he's in Arkansas. Thank you very much, Mary. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of alleged conservatives are tied very much in with the system. And when they get out of sight and out of the spotlight and they're sitting around in their country clubs and their liberal friends come over and go, "Are you one of those Jesus? You're allied with those Jesus gun people who like families and know which bathroom to use." I mean, it's so icky. And they're like, oh, I don't think I'm one of them. It's just an act. Wink, wink, wink. We're done with winking. We're done with faking. You're either with us or you're with them. Pick a side. I'm Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. We'll be right back with the Federalist's own Sean Davis. Stick around. And that is the greatest rock and roll band of all time, The Replacements, with their 1985's Androgynous off their album Let It Be. I am Kurt Schlichter, noted bumper music aficionado, senior columnist at Townhall, retired United States Army colonel, and my pronouns are Zip and Zorp. I'm joined by Sean Davis of the Federalist. Sean, what are your pronouns?
His greatness, the most eminent.
Perfect. And, I want to validate all your feelings, and I appreciate your contribution to the battle against the patriarchy. Sean, did you happen to see the brutal slaying of Asa Hutchinson last night on Tucker Carlson?
It was amazing. I think that was classified as a hate crime in 37 states and D.C.
Holy cow. To catch people up, Asa Hutchinson, governor of Arkansas, vetoed a bill that would have outlawed, chemically castrating and surgically castrating children. It was overridden by the legislature. He gets on Tucker Carlson to explain why, and I want you, you're hearing me correctly. Well, this is, I vetoed it because of the limited government vibes of Ronald Reagan and William F. Buckley, both noted proponents of childhood castration, I guess, in his mind. What the hell, Sean? What the hell?
Yeah, it was wild. Of all the things to expect watching Tucker, I didn't expect a Republican governor to go up and say his favorite book was that revered tome, God and Castrating Children at Yale by William F. Buckley. Or the
standing athwart history yelling snip.
Or the great 64 speech from Reagan endorsing Goldwater, which I think they called it a time for castrating.
A time for choosing your gender. As a kid, it's what was insane is it was like when Christie, ! Gnome, because she has earned the exclamation point of Conservative Inc. failure, gets on Tucker and tries to explain to us why we're too stupid to understand how important it is to allow boys to take over women's sports. He really thought he was going to talk us into buying this nonsense. Where does this delusion come from?
Well, I think part of it is that a lot of people in public life, Republican or Democrat, are idiots. And so they don't really think things through, and then they get told something by their advisors or the big, bazillion-dollar corporations that bankroll their campaigns that you're going to do X, and they say, okay, well, I'm going to do X, and then their advisors say, and then you're going to defend it by saying Y, and they're just dumb little politician brains, can't do things like basic logic, and so they just spit out whatever their advisors tell them. I mean, him claiming that it's super limited government to allow hospitals to just go and castrate children. That was dumb. But it's up there with...
Look, Sean Davis of the Federalist, I'm all for limited government, but I don't think not castrating kids is like an undue limitation. I don't think it's like a real burden on society. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. And it's, I mean, I was just it was a slow motion train wreck watching Hutchinson last night. But it reminded me of
he thought he was doing well.
Oh, he did. He went up there and he's like, I crushed it, guys.
Booyah!
High fives. But yeah, we had that Gnome staffer say that if you criticize her for wanting to let men brutalize women in sports, you're doing cancel culture.
Oh, well.
Like there's no thought going on in these people's heads. They just mouth the lines that are given to them and assume that if they repeat them enough, they can get away with it. And what they don't understand is they're not Democrats. Only Democrats can go on television with the corrupt corporate media and say obvious lies and get away with it. Like, that ain't going to work on Tucker.
Oh, no. Tucker's not playing that. He had so much Tucker face last night. That was enough Tucker face for 10 shows. But the thing is, and I wrote about it at Townhall on Monday, liberals, are they stupid or do they think you're stupid? I think a lot of these conservative politicians Sean Davis, think we're dumb. They think we're a bunch of gun-loving Jesus knuckle-draggers, and that they can throw out a bunch of stuff about, mention Ronald Reagan, I'm going to cut taxes, fight the power, support our troops, and we're all going to nod and, with our one tooth in our head and support them. I think they still think it's like 1987. I don't think they're aware that people have gotten conservative woke.
They are, but what's crazy is it's not even about being like super conservative or super woke. If you can't tell me that boys and girls are different because it's an obvious truth of reality for all of human civilization, you have no business being anywhere near any levers of power, let alone, you shouldn't be operating heavy machinery if you can't tell the difference between boys and girls. And yet these people are operating the machinery of entire government. It's not even an ideological thing as far as I'm concerned. Boys and girls are different. That should just be a baseline thing that we ask everyone from now on. Are boys and girls different? And if they get the answer wrong, they can go packing.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the problem is, they get to the country club and all their friends have this kind of liberal vibe. And they don't want to be associated with you. Are you one of them evangelicals who actually believes in God? No. I'm not like those rubes. I'm not like any of them, except me. And we're just not going to buy it anymore. We have our own outlets. We're watching. I don't trust Republican politicians as far as I can throw them. And I do support throwing them, just to see how far. But it is so clear that so many of them are just there to kind of cash in on the establishment. What do you think the over and under is on how long it takes after Asa Hutchinson's termed out to get a seat on the Walmart board?
Okay, we'll probably have to measure it in seconds.
Yeah,
and that's a huge problem. And what I think people forget a lot. They get kind of bought into the whole team loyalty thing of Republicans or Democrats. I have a different view. I think politicians are tools, not in the mean sense of the insulting one.
Well, some
but
of them
their job
are.
is to do things.
Yes.
So, if I have a hammer, I don't care what it looks like as long as it hits nails really well. But if it doesn't hit nails really well, I don't care how cool it looks. It's going in the trash. A tool exists entirely to be useful. And these people are no longer useful, and so they need to go in the trash.
Exactly, Sean Davis of the Federalist. I absolutely agree with you. We need to stop this idea that politicians deserve our loyalty and support. No, I, the conservative voter, deserve their loyalty and support. And if they aren't cutting it, you cut them loose. Look, Kristi Noem was an up-and-comer. Okay, I thought, well, man, she could be the next one. She's standing up on COVID, and then she screwed up and showed weakness, and I think she's disqualified in the eyes of most conservative. Maybe she will see the light and earn, and I emphasize earn, our trust again. But right now she's lost it, and I don't miss her. I have zero sentimentality regarding these people. They must go, and that goes for all of them. I like Donald Trump a lot. If Donald Trump is not the most likely to win in 2024, next.
Right. It should be entirely about, can we win with this person? And if so, is that person going to do the things that need to be done to save this country and save the civilization? Because that's where we are now. It's not that we're in the middle of great times, and the only real big issue is should cap gains rate be 15 or 10 or how, what should the right corporate tax rate be? We're so beyond those kinds of issues.
Yes.
Not that taxes aren't important, but we're arguing now over existential truth. Like, are boys and girls different? Are babies in their mother's tummies people? If you can't answer those questions correctly and you want to run this government and run this country, you can't do it because you're going to run it right into the ground. And I think we're long past the point of getting rid of the Republicans who think the job of the GOP is just to do progressivism, but following the speed limit instead of careening towards the cliff at 100 miles
Managing
an hour. We actually need people who are going to reverse this nonsense.
Well, and we're starting to see some of that. Brian Kemp in Georgia, who did not distinguish himself during the post-election fight, is distinguishing himself in the fight against the MLB and voting changes. And, of course, Ron DeSantis is taking hammer and tongs to the 60 Minutes and the garbage media. We need to encourage it. That's what people need to be doing. Stop caring.
Exactly. Ron DeSantis doesn't get up in the morning, or he doesn't appear to get up in the morning and ask himself, what can I do today to earn the approval of the corrupt Democrat media who hates me and everyone who voted for me? He gets up and he does his job well, and when the media take swings at him and try to take cheap shots, he punches right back, and he doesn't back down. And personally, I don't understand why that's so difficult for so many of these politicians to understand.
The payoff is huge.
Don't accept your dumb premises.
The payoff is huge. I mean, Kristi Noem could be a hero saying, I was told by a whole bunch of tech guys and a bunch of banks and a Chamber of Commerce that if I signed this law protecting women's sports, they were going to sue us and boycott us, and South Dakota doesn't roll over. So I'm signing it. Bring it on. She would be right up there with DeSantis competing, and now she is Jeb in a skirt with the little bolo tie and the cute little cowboy hat.
Right. All you have to do is what you said you were going to do. All you have to do is respect the will of the people who put you in office. And unfortunately, so many people in our party just don't seem to respect their own voter base. They seem to loathe us. They look down on us. They think we're dumb.
They do, and
we're uneducated.
And Sean Davis, people can find you at the Federalist or at Sean Davis on Twitter. He is a great follow. Go read all his stuff and stick around here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program as Dwayne and I close out this guest host session. I'm Kurt Schlichter here in the Relief Factor studio for one more segment. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be epic. Stick around.
Don't go anywhere. Kurt Schlichter doing a pretty good job today. But, of course, I have to come back and do the pitches for our friends at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. Do not forget andrewandtodd.com. I went and saw them on Monday, went to their office. Everyone was busy getting loans closed, and I really mean busy because it is the best of times for refinancing your home or buying a home. And they are working around the clock. Around the clock. Those people take their work home with them. They get it done. They are your bankers. Sierra Pacific Mortgage is a bank. AndrewandTodd.com is the best branch in that bank. And what you want to do is call them at 888-888-1172 and tell them what you need. Do you need a new loan? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to get a pre-qualification letter? Do you want to refinance your house and get money out of it at these ridiculously low rates? Now is the time to do that. AndrewandTodd.com, AndrewandTodd.com. They'll even work with Kurt. Now, Kurt does not have ReliefFactor.com with him. He comes fully equipped. I think he's carrying, etc. But he does not have ReliefFactor.com with him. And so he uses my stash in the studio. And I resent that a little bit, but like I said, he's carrying, so I'm not going to make too much of a trouble out of it. ReliefFactor.com should be in your house, in your car, especially in the ladder. If you're on your way to work this morning, you don't hear me, you're listening to Kurt, and you're saying to yourself, where's Hewitt? I was out way late last night and can't get up this way early in my last week in California. But I'll feel fine when I do wake up, even though I was up very late, because I take ReliefFactor.com every single day. And I'll take it as soon as I get out of bed today. ReliefFactor.com, $19.95. Gives you a 3-week starter pack. I think if you go and read all of the great testimonials, they might persuade you. But listen to me, I take it on the air every day that I'm there, and I mean it. It works. It works for me. It will work for you. Give it a try, ReliefFactor.com. Then come back for more Kurt Schlichter right after this on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of The Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
The Delta found out that the Georgia skies aren't so friendly to woke companies. And the takeaway from what's happening with Delta and Coca-Cola and Home Depot, and these are Georgia companies that are absolutely terrified of the Twitter mob. That's all it is. They haven't bothered to read the Georgia election integrity law because they don't care. What's in the law truth doesn't matter to them. They just don't want to be hounded by a bunch of angry leftists who are in mama's bedroom, a basement in their underwear, furiously typing on their keyboards. So Missy writes, it's always nice when a progressive woke company that goes all political gets walloped with a face full of reality. And that's exactly what happened over at Delta. So for some reason, the Delta CEO issued a blistering statement condemning his company's home state and the efforts to have some voter integrity, some election integrity. I mean, among other things, the law requires voter ID even if you're voting by mail. Oh, heavens to Betsy, we can't have that. Delta called that voter suppression, even though, of course, you don't dare get on an airplane at Delta without showing your ID several times. Is that flying suppression, or is that just common sense?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
It is a force of pure destruction. If it's good, the left destroys it. America was largely good. America is composed of 330 million flawed human beings. It is amazing that it got as good as it did. The amazing thing is not the bad that exists, which is universal. The amazing thing is the good that exists, which is unique or extremely rare. You don't judge people by the same flaws, or you don't judge a society by the same flaws that every other one has. You judge it by what makes it exceptional, either worse, like a communist or fascist or Nazi country, or better, like America. I have a particular love of classical music, as you know. You know who love classical music the most, by far, certainly in the young generation, are Asians, Koreans, Chinese, and Japanese in particular.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program, closing it out. That is my guest host Kurt Schlichter closing song by
Finally,
the
decent replacement song
by the greatest band ever, the Replacements. Can't hardly wait. Not their best song, but definitely better than 99.999. Look, it is better. It is COVID death rate among healthy young adults numbers. 99.9999%.
Yes.
It's better than all those.
Recovery rate, yes.
That's an analogy that didn't work. You know what else isn't working? Whatever Gavin Newsom is doing, it's not working for science. It's working for Gavin Newsom.
We spent a little time talking about Andrew Cuomo, America's worst governor, but America's second worst governor is Gavin Newsom here in the Golden State. And Gavin Newsom has now dropped all pretense of science when it comes to COVID management. And
I thought he believed in science.
No, apparently what he believes in more is the Swami, the fortune tellers.
The Swami.
He has become Karnak.
He's got a Swami.
Yes, he was at a press conference yesterday and announced in his press conference that the Golden State would reopen, not today, not tomorrow, not next week, but 2 months from now on June 15th. That's when everything is going to be okie dokie to reopen in California.
Wow.
That's not science. That's fortune telling. That's prediction. That's going to a bookie.
That's rolling the dice.
That's rolling the dice.
Fortune cookie stuff.
That's fortune cookie stuff.
It has to
now,
be June 15.
June 15th.
Does that have any significance?
Well, you gotta wonder, don't you? On CBS Early Show this morning, he was asked a very salient question, which is cut number 16.
Has the recall effort influenced your decisions in pandemic response?
Absolutely not. In fact, quite the contrary. We're just focused on the data, disease prevalence. I'm focused on what's actually happening on the ground.
That is a lie. He is not focused on the data.
I don't think he's focused on the data.
If the data on the ground is all important, we would be open today.
Well, gosh. I think he may have an ulterior motive.
Yeah, because June 15th. What happens on June 15th?
Well, it's my mom's birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Mom.
Okay.
But what else happens about that point? You see, in California...
School me.
Exactly. In California, every school district, of which is not open right now, most of them aren't open
My kids
yet.
still are not in school.
At least not in person.
And not in person.
They're all
They're
doing
doing
remote.
computer school.
Correct. By June 15th, every school district in the state has gone to summer break. Their school year has ended.
So
he has
he's
now
avoided a problem with the unions.
by punting.
That's
for
a sports
2 months.
thing, right?
That's where you kick away the ball because you don't want it anymore.
Got it.
What he has basically done is he wants for 2 months to crow about we're going to open. Don't recall me because we're going to open. Without having to force the teachers union to actually go back to work in person in class, which they don't want to do.
No, they do not want to do that.
So, yeah, he's being a weasel. He's always been a weasel. He will continue to be a weasel. He needs to be recalled. The big question is who's going to replace him?
Well, I got to hope it's not Rick Grinnell. I love Rick. Rick is great.
He hasn't announced whether
he has
he's
not
in or
announced.
out. Do you know who
I do not know the answer of what he's going to do.
But do you know who is making noise under a possible Republican Party run, who is talking about getting in and is talking to GOP consultants and strategists?
Oh, it's going to be something horrible, isn't it?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Is it too early to begin drinking?
Why?
I don't know.
Have you ever had anybody on the street come up to you and go,
I wonder how Caitlyn Jenner would run this.
This is a real mess. We need the former the person formerly known as Bruce.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's ever said that. I mean, how do these people get in their heads that what California needs? Me. Except in a higher pitched voice.
I'm just not seeing it. Now look,
I don't want
the person.
I don't want any like movie star celebrity doing. I just don't. I want somebody to just come in and ruthlessly
open things.
Yes, and just say no. That's the whole job I want as a.
Don't do anything else because you can't
California.
because the state legislature is screwed up here.
Just say no.
Just come in, say no to everything, and open stuff.
Exactly. Say no.
That's all you need to do.
Just say no. But just say yes to Hugh Hewitt tomorrow when he returns. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. I want to thank everybody on the crack staff here. It's been great. And I hope to...
Did you say the staff here is on crack?
Parmesan cheese.
Oh, okay.
Adios, folks. Bye-bye.